Hello and welcome to the Challenge Complete podcast. My name is John. If you're new to the channel, every month we do a backlog challenge. That's where we look at all the games that we have and we try to make some arbitrary challenge to pick a game to play. Because sometimes we have so many games, we just don't know what to play. It's kind of weird. You can have so many games but not know what to play. So we've been doing this for a few months now. And usually what would happen is I would do a review every single month on the game that I played, but it was actually becoming very stressful and I wasn't having as much fun doing it anymore. I created this channel with the sole intent of giving myself fun ways to pick my games, basically with my friends, and so we could shoot the shit about video games. But it was becoming stressful to get a video out every month, so I just want to turn it into sort of a little podcast type thing where I can just sit here and discuss the games. There might be reviews still in the future, but I'll be more selective on what games I choose to talk about, not necessarily for the challenges. So I haven't done a review in 2 months. I skipped the January one. Actually, I wrote it out, but I didn't get it done. And then February's I haven't done. March's challenge is probably already out too, but we'll get there eventually. So it's the end of February right now. Let's back up to January. So Christmas time happened. I got a bunch of new games. I think like 12 games. And none of them were like short games. And that's just talking physical games. People gave me digital games I still haven't even played either. So I've been super busy just playing those games and enjoying them. But when I had to think of what to do for the challenge to start the year off right, I knew I wanted to push myself to play something more intense. So January's challenge is play an RPG. Terrible decision. And I chose a short RPG. I chose Shadowrun Returns. It's like a 10-hour RPG. It's isometric, tabletop style, or based on tabletop. So decisions matter, or they're supposed to matter. But I chose that with the intent of, it'd be quick and I can record it. Because that was a big problem with the reviews too, is that I needed to record the gameplay. And recording my consoles is actually a big hassle to connect up the capture card and all that. I have the means to do it. I just don't have the space to make it convenient. And again, breaking into the convenience of me being able to do things is not the purpose of this channel. It's just to have fun with you guys and hang out and shoot the shit about video games. So I was like, okay, I'm going to record something, so I need something. But the games I was playing Dragon Ball Z Kakarot at the time, which is an RPG of sorts. You know, there's stats, you level up. And I could have just counted that, but I wouldn't be able to have the footage for the game. So instead, I decided to do Shadowrun Returns because it was short and I could record it. But let's talk about Shadowrun Returns because this game is actually pretty highly acclaimed. And I kind of chose it on the idea of because Cyberpunk had just came out, got some negative reception, obviously. It wasn't quite finished all the way, really. And this game is a Cyberpunk game. Kind of when I thought about the term Cyberpunk and video games together, I always thought about Shadowrun. And on a previous channel, I'd actually watched a buddy of mine play through this before, but I had forgotten almost all of it. So I was like, well, I want to go through it myself and create my own character and see how it goes. Because it is the type of game where you select a race and you select a class, or you don't select a class, but you sort of put your stats accordingly. And you can't be a jack of all trades. It's not like a Skyrim situation. You will need to specialize if you're going to be good at anything at all. And then if your character isn't good in something, you assemble a team out of makeshift mercenaries to come with you, and they'll fill in the blanks for you. So if hypothetically your person was good at shooting, maybe you'd have someone else good at melee or hacking or something like that. So when you start the game, you get to create the character. So I chose what I thought would be the most unique character. I chose to be a decker. And a decker is basically a hacker because it's cyberpunk. So I thought, or it's a cyberpunk environment. So I thought hacking is probably one of the most cool things you can do. And I knew it was a little more involved than just like a simple little mini game. I knew you went like into the cyber matrix and you encountered enemies. I remembered that from watching my buddy play through it. But one thing I'll say is if you are playing this game, if you're playing Shadowrun Returns, don't pick a decker. There's not enough situations in the game to warrant being a decker. There's maybe 5 times in the whole game that going into the Matrix is something you'll do. And only one of them's optional, I'm pretty sure. 1 or 2 where you going into the Matrix can help benefit what you're doing in the environment. Maybe you hack some drones or some sentry unit or sentry turrets. But other than that, it's always like going into the Matrix is something they're going to force you to do anyway. So a lot of times they'll either pair you with an NPC or just assume that you've brought a decker. Like they'll strongly recommend you bring a decker with you through your through the mercenaries that you can assign. So very rarely do you get to use that skill to good effect. I mean, when you do, yeah, you're a badass in there. But I was playing on a regular difficulty. I don't think I changed it at all. And being strong or weak in the Matrix didn't seem to make that much of a difference. I wasn't even like fully maxed out in anything, and I still got through those parts no problem at all. So I just felt like being a decker was boring because you didn't actually get to be a cool class. And when I wasn't in the Matrix, all I was doing was shooting people with a pistol, because I also specialize in pistols, because I was like, well, if I'm going to be a decker, I'll be a more boring weapon. I'll be a pistol guy. That was a mistake too, because pistols are boring too. So unfortunately, being a decker kind of already right off the bat has limited my experience a little bit. So don't choose a decker. That's my first recommendation if you play this game. As I was playing through, I saw all the other class archetypes that you could pick, and I was like, man, I could have been this person with the drones. They're cool. I could have been just, even if I was just like a shotgunner, that would have been cool too, because I would have been a strong member of my team. And granted, by the end of the game, my guys' pistols, they're putting in work, but I could have been putting in work the whole game and actually been having fun. So because I chose a decker, unfortunately, I missed out on a lot of the more enjoyable elements of the actual combat. And so the way it works is it's like a grid-based combat. So you're going through, and kind of like XCOM, and you're doing turn-based and trying to position your people maybe behind cover or maybe not behind cover so you can get better accuracy. Because accuracy in XCOM, it's a big thing. But in this game, you miss a lot. And I think that's just an inherent thing to tabletop style games. You're just always missing. So you do miss a lot. Even as you level up, you're just missing constantly. If someone's behind a 2-foot wall, your accuracy drops to like 50% or something crazy. So if you're just rocking pistols the whole time, you don't got much going on. So what this game has going for it, though, is the story. And there wasn't much to the story at first. I was actually kind of underwhelmed when I started playing it at first. That's kind of why it took me so long to get through. I didn't finish this game until the very end of January, because I was playing Dragon Ball, and I was like, well, I'm enjoying Dragon Ball. I love Dragon Ball, so why do I want to go back and play Shadowrun right now? I know I got to do it for the challenge, yada yada, but I was having more fun with Dragon Ball. And but the more you play, the more the story kind of picks up and gets back on the right track. Or not on the right track, because it wasn't on the wrong track. It was just kind of like, so the story is, there's this man, he's your friend, and he was killed. And when he was killed, it set off a dead man switch that contacted you and said, hey, I've been killed. If you can figure out what happened to me, there's a substantial amount of money in it for you. I don't remember what it was, $1 million or Drek, they call it. I don't know. Was it Drek? Nguyen? That sounds familiar. I don't remember. Like $1 million in it for you. And so you take it up. And that's the quest, right? So you go to the crime scene, try to figure out what happened. You see a mysterious person in the background, and you try to sort through what happened. And you come to realize that it might have been this person called the Ripper. who's been a serial killer that's been killing a bunch of people lately. He may have been responsible, and the game is short, so you kind of quickly figure out that yes, it was him. It was him. However, there was, and we're gonna get into a little bit of spoilers here, but there were other powers that be behind it. And when that happens, the game takes like this huge sharp turn and gets way more enjoyable to me. You kind of see it coming. It's kind of sets it up for it, but it was way more enjoyable once that stuff started happening and the stakes got raised a little bit. It's not just you trying to make money from your friend's death. It's you trying to save the world. So the story was working for it really good, especially towards the end, because once I sort of got over that hump, things really picked up and started enjoying it a lot more. And then my character was also getting a lot better at the pistol skills, basically, because the Matrix stuff was very, very few and far between. And I was actually picking cooler people to be on my team, because at first I was like, oh, I need someone with a shotgun. But later on I was picking shamans, and I was picking the drone people, which are really cool. And I also picked some people who were supposed to be good at melee, but they weren't really that good. I guess melee accuracy is just super low, even though you would think it would be pretty high considering you're standing right in front of someone. But so Shadowrun Returns was pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot more by the end of it than at the beginning, and it was pretty short. So from the challenge perspective, it worked out good, even though mentally I was elsewhere. I was trying to play Dragon Ball, trying to play other games that were going on. I think I might have still been playing Last of Us Part 2 at the time. And those are not short games by any means. So my mind was other places, even though I chose a short RPG for the challenge. So you would think that would make things go easier. It was only 10 hours. That's a short RPG. But I just never wanted to play it over the other games I had at the time. But by the time I reached the end, I said, yeah, this is a good game. And I think if I were to play through it again, I wouldn't choose a Decker. And also, when I play through the sequels eventually, because I own both of those as well, I will not choose a Decker that time either, because it just wasn't worth it. To me, it's good to always have a Decker on the team, because those Matrix portions are there, and you do want to be efficient at them, but they weren't worth putting my main character on that class. That just doesn't make sense. Or if I was going to do it, I would just spec into it a little bit, not as much as I did, as I spec'd pretty hard into it. So being that challenge, it was tough because of what I had going on, but I think if I focused more, wouldn't have been as big of a problem. And then February snuck up on me. I hadn't even got the video out for Shadowrun Returns, and it was already February. It was time to make a new challenge, and again, I couldn't just pick something easy. I said, you know what? I want to pick something easy, so I'm going to leave it up to a poll. So I put a poll up on Discord, on the Pizza Party Discord, and I said, what do you guys want to do? And the one with the most votes was play a game from one of your least favorite genres. And I have a couple genres I dislike. RTS games, I'm not really big on. I haven't really played a ton of them, but I'm not the biggest fan of roguelikes. Anytime my progress gets reset playing a game, it's just super demoralizing. But the one I haven't played the most, I'm sure this is it for a lot of people, sports games. I played a couple sports games growing up. I played a couple games you could say are borderline sports games. I played a lot of WWE games because I'm a big WWE fan. Played a lot of racing games, which you know, is that a sport? Is it not? I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily count them as sports games. I would just count them as racing games. Even ones like the NASCARs and stuff, I don't know. They're just racing games to me. So I looked at my games and I said, okay, I have NBA Street Volume 2. And NBA Street Volume 2 I've had for a long time. I know everyone says it's so good. I just grabbed it on a whim. I think NBA Street Volume 1 and 3 were at the same place I bought them, at the used game store. But I just didn't want to get too deep into it. So I was like, okay, volume 2. And this was years ago. This was like, man, it has to be like 7 or 8 years ago now that I bought it. Just used, played it maybe once or twice. I got it on the GameCube, played it once or twice, and wasn't really feeling it. I think I got my ass beat when I first played it. I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing. I tried to play a quick match. I didn't go through the tutorial or anything. And so I figured, okay, time to play this, knock this out. I'm sure there's a story mode or like a season mode. And it may take a long time to get through like a season, but I'll play through it, you know. It's basketball. And NBA Street Volume 2 is like very stylized basketball. You know, there's a lot of like jumping and spinning around and dramatic flair to it. And the scoring system actually works a little weird where what would usually be a 2-point system or a 2-point basket is a 1-pointer, and your 3-pointers are only worth 2 points. So it's kind of weird in that sense, but it's still basketball, even with the cool dunks. The only real thing that changes is you can fill up a meter, and you can use that meter to unleash like a really super crazy basket shot or dunk maybe, and it'll add your point, but it also deducts one of their points, which is minor and doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Really, as far as playing the story mode, the only things that made a difference, and again, I played on the normal difficulty, so there's potential that this changes if you go up to higher difficulty, but the only thing that changed in the story mode, which is called the Be a Legend mode, the only thing that changed was the one time I played a game that was based on score. That's the only time that any of that stuff made any difference. So the way it works in Be a Legend mode is you create a character, and that character creates a team of 3. So you do 3-on-3 basketball, and use your stat points to raise your stats, obviously, shooting, dunking, etc., how you dribble the ball. However, the same stat points are used to customize your character. You can change a lot of the facial stuff for free at first, but as far as like getting you outfits, as well as like if you're a fat guy or an athletic guy or whatever, that costs the same stat points. And to me, why would I ever customize my character? I just want my character to play the game better. So to me, that was a very silly misstep, because my character throughout the entire game had a green shirt, was fat, and he was damn good at shooting the ball, 3 points in particular. It just seemed weird to me because it discouraged you from upgrading your character. Now, if I were to play again, I might use those stat points to get some clothing options, because by the time I got to the end of the game, I realized that nothing stood a chance. I was beating everything's ass, no problem. And the game is actually pretty short. It surprised me. There's basically like 5 or 6 cities you go to, and only the first one has, I think it's Philadelphia, has like 5 or 6 different game modes to pick from. Basically, it's just higher difficulties, right? And the rest of them are all single modes. You do like a tournament there, or a challenge or something like that. So it was just really short. I ended up finishing in about 2 days, because when I put in the challenge and I was like, okay, I gotta get on this challenge so that I can get it done and start doing the reviews, I finished in 2 days. And it's because, at least on normal difficulty, the way a basketball game works, and I guess it's the way most basketball games work probably, 3-pointers are king. My character was a 3-point character. As you beat games, you can, as you beat other teams, you can recruit their players. And every time you beat like a whole level, you get a special character who's really good at one thing in particular. And the first special character you get is a character named Stretch, and he's really good at dunks. So I had this guy who was amazing at dunks, and then I had myself, who was really good at 3-pointers. And I also upgraded myself to be good at blocks, which I want to say, if in regular basketball, I'm not a sports guy, I don't really know, but I think in regular basketball, if a ball is headed down and is going towards the goal and you jump up and block it, that's called goaltending. It's against the rules. In this game, you can goaltend all you want. So it's extremely broken to block shots. I mean, you can block every single shot. In fact, it's almost more beneficial just to let the other team do whatever the hell they want, run around, who cares, do tricks or whatever they're doing. And then when they finally shoot the ball, you just jump up and snatch that shit out of the air, run all the way back and dunk on their ass, or shoot a 3-pointer if you're me. And so eventually you just have a system in place where you're just beating the hell out of these guys and making it look easy. And the only times it's ever different is they'll do little challenge games, like I said. Like there was one where you had to get a bunch of style points to win. But the rest of it is like, oh, win with dunks. Okay, well, I'll just win with dunks then. Oh, well, win with 3-pointers. Well, that's going to be easy. That's how I do every single normal game. So it really never changed, which I guess that's how it works with sports games. However, I just felt like because this one had sort of a structure to it. So when you get to these legendary basketball players, I thought there would be more to it, you know? So when you face, let's say, Stretch, for instance, he's the boss with his team. I expected that team to be much more difficult, and they weren't. They play exactly the same as everyone else. You play them the same way as everyone else. You rebound their balls, goaltend them, and that's it. That's how it works. And it never changes, and it never got difficult. Maybe that's just because my stats were keeping up with them, or I just found the secret to doing it. But it just never changed. And you can play and have fun and do tricks and do little silly dunks and stuff, but it never felt very beneficial. It was just fun to do sometimes, but every game besides that played the same. Even all the way at the end when you face these legends, right? They play exactly the same. And also, Stretch is the first boss, and I recruited him, obviously, and I used him the entire game. There were other legends who were good at like dribbling or rebounds or something. I never recruited them to my team because they were kind of weak in other areas. So the first boss I get was good enough for the whole game. The last player changed every now and then. For a time, it was Michael Jordan who I had recruited, but I guess this is a weird time when Michael Jordan was with the Wizards, I think. So his stats weren't actually that good. But besides that, I recruited some other basketball players. I don't remember who they were, but they were really good. And I'm sure if you play basketball or know anything about basketball, you probably know who they are, but I don't know who they were. They were good, though. By the very end, I got Kobe Bryant, who basically filled that role completely, the third person on my team, and we just dominated every game from there. Was it a bad game? No, it wasn't. It was fun. And I actually do appreciate that it didn't waste my time because I don't actually care about basketball that much. I'm sure it's more for people that want to play multiplayer against each other, right? If you're playing multiplayer, all the mechanics to it are going to be way deeper and way more useful. You know, you could get your style gauge up and deduct points from the other players, and that would make a huge deal. But it doesn't make a huge deal in the single player mode. But it was fun. Is definitely the only other basketball game I played was I think NBA Live on Dreamcast. It was like NBA on NBC or something like that. And I remember liking that game a lot too. It's very similar with the arcadiness. Not quite as ridiculous as NBA Street Volume 2, but they're both fun. And NBA Street is not a terrible game. I wouldn't go out of my way to get it, but it was a good time. So that's my last 2 months worth of challenges. I know we're probably deep into March right now, and there's some March challenges going on that we need to get to, and we will get to it. I don't think I'll do a podcast. I don't think I'll do a challenge complete podcast for this month by itself because I do plan on doing a different podcast, the sibling rivalry thing I did at the end of last year. I think we're going to do a quarterly type of podcast for that so that way it's not a big 6-hour podcast like before. So I don't think I'll do one for this month's challenge, but I'll probably catch you up by the end of April that's it for me. Hope you enjoyed this little mini podcast. I hope to do more of these and have more of a casual conversation. Let me know in the comments what you played for your challenges for January and February, even though a lot of you guys already know, especially if you're on the Pizza Party Discord. The link is in the description for that. That's where I keep up with most of the people doing the challenges with us. Hey, beat those games. We'll be back with more challenges soon, I'm sure. Peace.